Proverbs chapter 5 is usually that chapter, the one that makes everyone kind of shift in their seats a little. It often gets boiled down to just a list of don'ts about sex. But honestly, it is so much more than that. It's this brilliant, almost financial analysis of a concept we all get, opportunity cost. Okay, let's really get into this. So you have to picture King Solomon sitting his son down, trying to explain a fundamental truth about life. And he frames sin not just as, a moral slip-up, but as a genuinely terrible investment. He's basically arguing that if you take the bait, it's not just your soul on the line. It's going to cost you your money, your reputation, and ultimately your physical life. So how does this really bad investment show up? Well, Solomon gives us a character for this story, often translated as the strange woman. Now, it is absolutely crucial to get this. This isn't about one specific person. It's an archetype, right? It's a symbol for any temptation that looks amazing on the outside. And just listen to the language Solomon uses here. It's so sensory. He's showing us that temptation almost never shows up looking like a monster. Nope, it starts with sweetness, like honeycomb dripping from the comb. It feels smooth, validating, like oil. This is the language of flattery, of affirmation. It's literally everything you think you want to hear.
But then, bam, check out the immediate violent pivot in the very next verse. The experience that started out smoother than oil ends up bitter as wormwood and as sharp as a two-edged sword. And wormwood, by the way, is this incredibly bitter plant. Solomon is making it crystal clear the aftertaste of this choice is nothing but regret and the sharp, cutting pain.
And to really get the context here, the Hebrew word being used is zara. It literally means the stranger or the outsider. The whole idea is that this path, it leads you away from the safety and the structure of a covenant, whether that's your covenant with God or with your spouse. It's a path that is, by definition, outside of blessing. And this line right here, it brilliantly illustrates the most dangerous part of the whole trap. See, you think you can control it. You think, I can handle this. I can manage a secret, keep it in a box. But Solomon warns that the path itself is unstable. It's literally moving under your feet. You cannot know its ways, and you don't realize how deep in you are until it is way too late. So why stay away? Is it just about following some arbitrary rule? Not at all. Solomon appeals directly to his son's logic. He breaks down the specific, tangible price he's going to pay. He basically lays out a clear, itemized invoice for this terrible investment, spelling out exactly what it's going to cost him. And he lists 3 huge areas of your life that get completely forfeited. First, your honor. We're talking your reputation, the respect you've worked to build. Second, your wealth. The text is super specific, saying strangers will be filled with your financial resources. And third, your body, your actual physical health and your vitality. This verse is just haunting. The point is this. When you give in, you are willingly handing over your most valuable assets, your dignity and your time, to a cruel master. You are literally outsourcing your best years and your strength to something that cannot love you back and will never, ever love you back. But right after this incredibly heavy warning, the chapter's tone does a complete 180. It shifts from the danger of the trap to the absolute joy of the solution. And the answer isn't just to, white-knuckle it and repress all your desires. Not even close. You have to remember, in the ancient Near East, water was life itself. A cistern wasn't just a puddle, it was a private, protected water reserve just for your family. This is such a beautiful and powerful metaphor for your spouse, a private, life-sustaining source of joy and refreshment that is meant only for you. And then Solomon asks this really pointed, logical question. Why in the world would you take the most intimate, precious, life-giving part of yourself and just spill it out in the public square for anybody? It's completely illogical. It devalues something that's meant to be cherished and protected. And right here, this is the antidote. The instruction is to rejoice with the wife of thy youth, to be so utterly captivated and, intoxicated by your own spouse that all those other temptations just lose their power. See? It's an offensive strategy, not just a defensive one. So, as the chapter starts to wrap up, Solomon delivers one final, sobering reality check. This is for anyone out there who thinks, I can get away with it, I can manage the risk and avoid the cost. This is the ultimate accountability, isn't it? You might delete the browser history, you might hide the texts, but you are never, ever acting in secret. You are always on stage before an audience of one who sees everything and weighs every single choice we make. And finally, the very last warning isn't about some external punishment from the sky. It's about the internal prison we end up building for ourselves. It's about the self-binding nature of our own bad choices. Sin is described as acting just like a rope. At first, it's just one thin little thread. You could easily snap it. But every single time you say yes to that thing, you're adding another strand. And you keep weaving them together until what was once a tiny thread becomes a cord. And then eventually, it's a thick, heavy rope that holds you completely captive. So, if you boil this whole chapter down, here's the bottom line. What the world is constantly screaming is freedom. Just do whatever you want, follow your impulses, is actually the direct path to slavery. Real, true freedom is found in the discipline and the joy of a covenant. It's the ability to choose what brings life, not what leads to destruction.
This ancient wisdom is so practical. Verse 8 literally commands us to remove thy way far from her, which means we have to intentionally create distance. So here's my challenge to you. What is one trigger in your life? Maybe it's an app, a show you watch, a certain time of night that leads you toward that unstable path. What is one thing you can remove right now to choose the path of freedom instead?